Hello all, welcome to Lit Guide. We are going to learn a topic that falls under literary theory and criticism, new criticism. First, we will begin with a definition. Second, we will talk about similarities and dissimilarities between new criticism and formalism. Third, we will talk about the term new criticism, who coined the term and who popularized it. Fourth, we will discuss the major features of new criticism, its tenets or principles. Fifth, we shall look at the origin of new criticism, the reasons that led to its formation. Sixth, we will talk about personalities who influenced the development of new criticism. And finally, seventh point, we will trace a timeline stating the critics who are directly involved in developing new criticism and their important works and contributions to this theory. For convenience, I will be dividing the content into two parts. The first part will cover point 1, the definition of new criticism, to point 4, its features. Alright, let's begin with the first part. New criticism is an Anglo-American literary theory that is formalist in nature. That is, it was developed by Anglo-American literary critics and is closely associated with the literary movement called formalism. Formalism was a Russian literary theory that put forward the technique of defamiliarization to turn ordinary language into extraordinary poetic language. Let us take a look at some of the features that are common to formalism and new criticism. First point, both formalism and new criticism focused on the formal aspects of a text like rhyme, meter, metaphor, etc. Second point, both analyzed the texts objectively. The major differences between formalism and new criticism is that formalism was purely theoretical, with its technique of writing called defamiliarization, while new criticism is more practical because it introduced the practical methodology of textual analysis called close reading or explication. That being said, let us now delve deeper into new criticism. The term new criticism was coined by J.E. Spingarn, an American educator and literary critic, in the year 1910. In The New Criticism, a lecture delivered at Columbia University. In this, he had explained his philosophy to view a work of art in its own terms without focusing on genre, historical setting, etc. Even though Spingarn coined the term, it had nothing to do with the movement at the time. It was only later that John Crowe Ransom, an American critic and educator, applied this term to describe a group of new American formalists through his book The New Criticism in 1941. Thus, J.C. Ransom is the person who gave the movement its name. Until then, the movement and its practitioners were loosely organized. Now, let us take a look at the major tenets or principles of new criticism. First point, new criticism aims at analyzing a text objectively and systematize the study of literature by making criticism more scientific. Second point, new critics look for formal aspects in a text like rhyme, rhythm, meter, imagery, metaphor, irony, etc. This practical methodology of textual analysis is called close reading or explication. This was introduced by I.A. Richards in his work Practical Criticism in the year 1929. Third point, it considers a text as autotelic, which means that a text is complete within itself and we would not need any external aid like the author's intent, history, etc. to understand it. Fourth point, new criticism is against the practice of considering the author's intention while analyzing a text. This is termed as intentional fallacy. That is, the mistake of trying to interpret a text by focusing on the author's intention when he or she wrote the book. Fifth point, new criticism is also against the practice of considering the effect that a text produces on the reader. This is termed as effective fallacy. That is, the mistake of evaluating a text based on its emotional effects on the reader. Both these phrases, that is, intentional fallacy and effective fallacy that are very important in new criticism were coined by William K. Wimsatt and Monroe C. Beardsley in their essays published in the collection named The Verbal Icon in the year 1954. Sixth point, another important phrase associated with new criticism is the heresy of paraphrase. It was introduced by Cleant Brooks in his work The Well-Wrought Urn in 1947. It refers to the idea that it would be a heresy to paraphrase a poem. The meaning of a poem is complex and closely associated with its precise language. Any attempt to paraphrase it would destroy the meaning and reduce its quality. These are the major features of new criticism. We have now covered the definition of new criticism, its tenets or principles, important terms associated with it, and some of the critics and their contributions. In the next video, New Criticism Part 2, we will see in detail the reasons that led to the formation of new criticism, early influences on it, its practitioners and their works and contributions, and also how new criticism was challenged later on and lost its significance. Make sure you watch it to have a comprehensive understanding of new criticism. Thank you.